Welcome to Master the Game. I am Juice, and today I want to talk about the game session that I ran this past weekend, in which I received my greatest compliment ever afterwards. So let's get started. Today is my birthday, so you should subscribe if you are not subscribed yet, and make sure you give me a like and tell me happy birthday in the comments. Why not? I had a game session this past weekend. It was a session ran for my family D&D group. This is a group we've been playing with on and off for about 10 years. It's my wife, her brother, his wife, her brother, and then his wife. We've had a couple other people come in and out of the campaign, whether it's nieces and nephews and things like that. And it's been a lot of fun over the years. We've done Tomb of Annihilation. We did a little bit of Out of the Abyss. And I'm not always the DM. I've only DM'd one of the early campaigns we did back in about 2015. My wife ran Tomb of Annihilation. My brother-in-law ran Keep on the Borderlands for us back about 15 years ago or so using D&D rules. So we've been playing on and off for this whole time and done a lot of different things. Now, the group is a very interesting mix of players and play styles. For instance, my brother-in-law is more, he likes the old school rules a little more, has some preconceived ideas on how D&D should be based on that. His wife is kind of in the same mold. His wife's brother played a lot of 3.5. My wife grew up playing AD&D, but has since switched, and she likes the more narrative style nowadays. But when we first started playing, she was more into the old school style. So things have changed drastically over the years, and it's just an interesting group. We are using the current D&D rules. That means the most updated ones from 2024. I have 3 campaigns right now, all using the same rules, and since I'm trying to figure out the nuances of that compared to 2014, it just made sense that we would just stick with this. With that said, I have never taken as many notes as I did for this campaign. We are on our second session, and here is everything I printed out for this session. Now, a lot of this is world building. It's the stuff that I really enjoy doing. I love world building. So I've got all this information right here about the town that they're in of Oakhartmore. It's got, points of interest. It's got NPCs, things they can buy. It's got some quest items that might come up later. All sorts of cool stuff like that. It's also got like a bounty board with those types of adventures. So I got a lot there. We decided to unify the whole group into one faction that we are calling the Stonehall Wardens. And I gave each player this at the start of the session. Okay, and this is the oath of the Stonehall Wardens. Now, the Stonehall Wardens are a secret organization. They use this oath to swear in. Once they swear in, they burn this piece of paper up and never to see it again. This little packet is information about my Stonehall Wardens with their logo. So we got the logo I whipped up, and then we've got some information about the Stonehall Wardens, like what is their mission, who are they, when were they founded, how do they resolve conflicts, where are they located, and even a magic item associated with them. So we got that. The next packet, and I say packet because this one is thick, this is about the capital of Stonehall. It's got the history of how Stonehall Keep came to be, how it went from a dwarven settlement to now being mostly human settlement. Lots of information in here, very similar to the village one, but just Stonehall Keep is much, much bigger. I have my outline that I made for the campaign. So this might not be what they use for the whole campaign. They might veer off. I might change it. The only one I know for sure is what I call Act 1. And that was them joining the Stonehall Wardens. They went through the trial and then starting to get some hooks that could lead to some different things. So there is that. It kind of highlights the first session, or really the second session, which is what we did this last weekend, and some different things there that I don't want to ruin, right? So if you are a player in my campaign, you might not want to watch this. Because this might ruin some stuff. In fact, if you play in either of my 2 campaigns that play in Stonehall, the Stonehall continent, then you don't want to watch this. So that would include the Windvale Village and now Oakhartmore. So turn this off, guys. Why are you still here? So anyways, there's the outline right there. I've got the notes. This is my notes from the previous session. And it also includes 6 factions or NPCs that are integral to the campaign. And that includes like a cult. It includes the cult leader. It includes the guy who wants to be the cult leader who's not the cult leader. It involves with the person that the cult actually is for, which it's a demon. And then we've got a couple other things. We've got a wizard who used to serve the Stonehall Keep, who doesn't anymore. And then we have a hobgoblin, tribe that is a pretty big deal in this campaign that I've already introduced the players to. So then there's this packet. This was the notes for the campaign, starting with the oath and how they, kind of went through that. Couple of the NPCs. Then it gets into getting into the village where they had to meet a scholar, to which the scholar gave them additional information and so on. So there's that. I had a printout of the logo that I could pass around the table. I've got a image that I used for the front of a temple that was in that session. And then my continent map that I made in our Incarnate. So I've got all that printed out, right? That's like 40 pages, okay? Pretty impressive, I think. It's more than I've ever done. I had multiple nights where I was up till about 4 in the morning working on this. So I am pretty proud of what I did. Well, let me summarize last session. So last session was our session 0, but we finished character creation and I decided I wanted to run them through a very specific trial. They had no memories of why they were here or anything like that. They woke up in cages hanging above water, and then they crashed into the water and there were supplies in a chest in the corner of the room. They had to go through that. They had to do a combat with a creature that like laughed and looked like something out of an old 90s Marilyn Manson video, right? Kind of like, crooked and, things like that, but had this like hideous laugh that the characters had to make a save against or they would start laughing. There was a trap, whereas the floor was weak in spots. So really only one character fell through it. It was our large barbarian. There was a toy that talked to them in like the 3rd or 4th room. And then there was a room with a bunch of, murals on the wall that told of this great battle from 80 years prior, which happened to be their characters from the campaign we played about 10 years ago that we never finished because my wife and I moved across state. So I wanted to give like throwback to those characters. And then there was a shadow in the final room with a puzzle that the players didn't figure out. The puzzle was these black orbs that if you broke those before approaching the door, then the shadow would not come, or it would, if you broke them while the shadow did come, the shadow would go away. They did not realize that. They got close to the door, shadow came out, and they had to fight the shadow. And then when the door finally opened after beating the shadow, it was a guy standing there, and the toy behind them said, can I do it? Can I do it? And he said yes, and basically it was a magical spell that put them back to sleep. So that was our session 0, partial session 1 thing where, I wanted to get them going, right? So these were considered the trials to become a Stonehall Warden. It's supposed to be very secretive where it's held and things like that. So they wake up in this cabin in the woods, and while there, Art Booth, the guy who was their contact before, they have all the memories back of this guy being the one they had met with before, who had talked about the Stonehall Wardens to them, to which they agreed. He got that all set up, all that. As they wake up, he summons them out the door, says, come with me. As they come out, it's early morning, it's foggy, the morning dew is out, all that. And they see some torches and some robed figures standing around this this altar. And one of the figures pulls his hood back, reveals himself as the leader of the Stonehall Wardens. His name is Elric Thorne. He's also the captain of the Stonehall Keep Guard. So that is his known job in the kingdom, but he's also the leader of the Stonehall Wardens, which is secretive. Okay. And he then proceeds to, recite some stuff about the Stonehall Wardens. And then the party is supposed to swear their oath. I had them all speak in unison, which was awesome. I could tell there was maybe some nervous energy, and some people thought it was kind of silly, but I think it was one of the highlights of the night. And so that was cool. Then I did some more narration. They had opportunities to ask questions, things like that, about the Stonehall Wardens. The premise of the Stonehall Wardens is it's an organization that fights the darkness so that others may live in the light. So again, they do everything in secret, and the idea is they don't get recognition for the things they do. They're not going to be hailed as these heroes, as Stonehall Wardens. However, they could have their own name for their group, whatever they wanted to call that, the Oakhartmore Adventurers or something, whatever they wanted to do. And if they had that, they could get recognition that way, but they're not allowed to use the Stonehall Wardens or their history or any known information about the Stonehall Wardens to, gain any clout and things like that. They're just not allowed to do that. They're not going to say, oh, we're Stonehall Wardens. The other thing is they're not going to know if they come across other Stonehall Wardens. If they came across another group that is also Stonehall Wardens, there should not be any knowledge of that unless they were told by, let's say, Elaric or Art Booth that these people are also Stonehall Wardens. So there may be opportunities or times where they come across other Stonehall Wardens. Only one of the party members didn't destroy their little sheet afterwards. That was our bard. They decided to pocket it, and they believe it went unnoticed. So there is that. So then they got the word of their first mission. So Elaric had gained information that there was a criminal who was killed who had a letter about a forgotten temple to an old sea god, and this artifact in the temple is powering a seal to keep something very dangerous locked away. Now, Elaric's note didn't say all those details, but it had some of that, to which Elaric reached out to a scholar who specialized in, things like this. So the mission was to meet up with Ariella Voss at the Crooked and Cracked Candle. She's a historic scholar of the arcane, and she happens to be in Oakhartmore. And so Elaric wanted her to look up a bunch of information, to which she did. It took months, and the current adventuring party is supposed to go meet with her and at least get some more information. So that is exactly what they did. They went and met with her, found out that there is a location to the east. She made them a map. It's very crude, but she made them a map of where this temple is supposed to be located. She explained how dangerous it is to get there, how there's hobgoblins, hill giants, and centaurs on the path there. Even when people get there, there could be dangers such as harpy or any number of things from the sea. And then she also explained to them that the waters are cursed. No one knows for sure how, but many have disappeared while searching for this temple. It is quite surprising that she was able to find the information of where it is. So she was a little surprised by that. So the party, taking all that, decided to go. Got into an encounter with some hobgoblins, to which it went well. They managed to... Our barbarian did get dropped very quickly, twice in this battle. The rest of the party did not. It did start at range, so it was a battle of bows and spell casting. When they got close enough to hit the barbarian, though, the party was shocked to find out that a hobgoblin could do over 20 points of damage, which is true. Hobgoblins in this new edition do 2d10 damage, by the way, with a longsword. And my party was, my players were very surprised, and I said, look, this is the monster stat block. It's 2d10. I'm just telling you now, that's how it is. So don't argue with me that a sword does certain damage or whatever. Like, you're not arguing that hill giants are using clubs at, like, greater damage either. Like, so just let it be. It is what it is. Damage is damage. So they understood. They got it. And we were fine. But it was very surprising to them. So that we had that encounter. Then they camped. And the next day when they finally got to the cliffs, they had a harpy encounter to which 2 players heard the music. One of them almost walked off the cliff, but luckily another player said they were holding them. And so they did not walk off the cliff and fall to their death. And they killed the 2 harpies. I think it was 2. Maybe it was 3 harpies. Proceeded to go into the temple. And they were supposed to just investigate the temple to see if the seal had already been broken. If not, then cool. Nothing dangerous, right? But the seal was the doors being shut. And so somehow someone had got in and opened the doors. And they found a body inside on the ground next to the staff. The magical staff that was empowering this was just lying on the floor. So, yeah. Anyways, so they thought they needed to reseal it. But I did tell them the seal was created with an ancient ritual. So none of them knew it. I even asked them if they knew the ritual. But yeah, eventually, after they tried a few things, we sorted it out, and they were unable to do that, and so they decided to leave. As they were leaving, because the thing about the body is that it was puffy. It looked like maybe it had been there. They didn't know how long, but I will tell you, it had been there for a few days. It was clearly a drowning victim. They could tell that much. But they didn't understand how, so they thought maybe there were traps in here, and they did find a gelatinous cube trap that they triggered on purpose, but not with them in the room, and so they found that out. They did all this stuff, and this is when they were trying to figure out the ritual. After they didn't figure out the ritual, because it was not possible, when they left and walked out of the temple, they noticed water was flowing down where the cavern entrance where they came from. I did describe as they were coming down the winding tunnel that it was sloping down. And I really did this because I needed the temple to be big enough underground that it had a high ceiling and stuff. That was my idea. So I had to slope down, right? Well, they put 2 and 2 together and realized, oh crap, we have been in here for a few hours. That's rising tides. So the rising tides are flooding this place. And that was roughly where we left off. However, the next session is going to start with Sahuagins coming down the pathway. I was thinking of having it be, what is it, Lansadon ghouls, which is basically the pirate ghouls. Basically old pirates who had drowned, and having the one that was in the temple rise and come back to life as well. But I think I'm going to just use the Sahuagin, have them come in, they can fight, do all that good stuff, and just another level of difficulty, especially since the water will be rising. Sahuagins can probably fight pretty well in water. The party's going to have some disadvantages. I love using environmental things to make it more difficult, whether it's cover, whether it's water. I really enjoy this stuff. Again, it was a really good session, right? You know, we had a trap in there. The way the temple was laid out inside is you had like a main room, and then you had 2 hallways that ran along the sides of it. So they were in the front corner was the entranceway. You took stairs down and then went to the end of the hallway. The hallway to the left had a statue at the end with a bunch of emeralds like in it, but it was a statue. And then the hallway to the right went all the way down and had a chain that you could pull, and it comes out of the wall. That chain was a trap door for a gelatinous cube to pop up by the stairs, fall down, and just walk down this hallway, eating whatever up, and then goes down into the drain in the corner, and then goes right back up into the ceiling. The other side also has a drain, but for water, not for a trap. So there was that. The main room had 2 braziers that were out. They didn't have any oil or anything like that. They were just completely empty. And then you had a statue that was pointing forward, points at a mirror that then does other stuff. But if the staff was powering this whole thing, then the energy would have been bouncing off the mirrors and doing everything it needed to do for the seal. So in my campaign, I have a few different seals across the continent that seal different temples. These seals are protecting what I call the veil, right? So each seal that gets broken, it thins the veil, and demons and abominations can come to this world from the weakened veil. The cultist group is able to summon these creatures once the veil is weakened. They know rituals to do so. So now that the one is broken, eventually, like in the next session or two, there will be aberrations that will probably show up in a very public space that do some damage to people and things like that. Could summon anything else from another plane. Haven't decided what yet. But that's the premise of the campaign. So these bad guys are trying to open all these things up, and the good guys are supposed to fight it off and prevent it as best as possible. But then there's other factions in the background that are working against each other. So there might be opportunity to side with one faction or another. Even the cultists, maybe the party works with the cultists to stop another faction. So there's a lot of different things there that are going to be possible in this campaign that I've kind of started toying with. Haven't given them too many sprinkles yet of any of that, but they have learned a little bit about somebody trying to break the seals. They don't know why specifically, and they don't know who. I've given them the hobgoblins, which are known as the Iron Warband, that they've come across. Our cleric is wearing the half-plate armor they got from them, so they have the Iron Warband symbol on them. I'm sure that'll come back. Our one bard who didn't burn the slip, probably going to lead to some problems at some point with the Stonehall Wardens. So there's a lot of little things already happening. So after the session, I was talking to my wife, and she plays in this campaign. She plays in my friend's campaign. She's played in a lot of online campaigns I've done. She's been wonderful. And normally she doesn't give me like big compliments, but she told me afterwards that she got the vibe that this was very Skyrim inspired or influenced, and possibly in Dragon Age as well. Now, I asked her where she thought the Skyrim influence came from, because I've been playing a lot of Skyrim, but I didn't think I took anything from that. And she couldn't pinpoint what it was. She just felt like, maybe because I've been playing more video games lately, that there was some Skyrim influence there. As for the Dragon Age influence, she said like the weakening of the veil, things like that, sounded very much like some Inquisition type stuff, which I could see that. Similar, not the same, but similar. Rifts open, creatures come through, you fight them. I could see that. Now, it's not going to be quite like that, because it's going to happen in big cities, and it's going to be triggered by this cult to just, here's where we're doing it, boom, to create chaos. Kind of like a terrorist attack of monsters and creatures, right? So that's what's going to happen in certain towns and cities. Heck, that might happen in some woods randomly. Might happen in other places. But right now, my plan is to do that in like Stonehall, Oakhartmoor, and, some of the other villages. And then, so I think that'll be good. But that was a good compliment for me, because if she's feeling like it's those games, and I know she loves those games, then I'm doing something right, I feel. And that for me was a huge compliment, because I love those games too. And if I could play an RPG and kind of get the vibe of that, then I would really enjoy it, I think. I think I'd be pretty excited about that campaign. So I'm excited to see how this campaign goes. I'm enjoying it. It's helped me do a lot of world building about a couple of my towns, which is very exciting for me. When I run campaigns and it inspires me to write more about my world, I feel like I'm doing something right there as well. So that's always exciting. But yeah, with that, this weekend we have our friend game, which is on the same continent, but they're dealing with different stuff. So I'll be prepping that tomorrow. And then also on Saturday, which by the time you see this, it will be Friday. So tomorrow will be our game. But I'll be prepping for that campaign. And just a lot of cool stuff going on. I'm running a lot of games, playing a lot of games. Excited to continue to do more content for you guys. I have been having a blast lately creating content for you guys. I am probably more motivated than I've been in years to create content and just do what I love, because I enjoy doing this. I love interacting with you guys in the community. Whether you guys are on my Discord, whether you follow me on Blue Sky, whatever it is. I do enjoy having conversations with you guys, sharing what's happening in my games. I love hearing what happens in your games. all that good stuff. So if this is your first time, hit subscribe, give me a like, and I will see you guys in the next one. Game on.